Alrighty, I'm out here working on this new Bronco. Cooper's not here right now. He's got class and whatnot. I had to pull the battery out of that and put it in here and fix a wire that was at the ignition. That was cut and it started cranking. Currently, fuel's leaking from up here at the filter, and the whole fuel rail is not tight, so it's kind of spraying from everywhere. And then if you look down in there, you can see there's a gasket right there hanging out of the intake. So the intake needs a new gasket. It needs to be taken off. And then some of these bolts are loose. So I'm gonna just check the valve cover when I pull it all apart. Might even pull the valve cover just in case. He did say that he replaced his head, and that seems to check out. It's a completely different color. It's not covered in oil, so I believe it. Other than that, so it's got fuel. Then I pulled a spark plug and put it on the wire. Got shocked, so it's got spark, but some of the wires on the back there on the distributor look like they're kind of in the wrong spot. So I'm gonna also check the distributor, make sure that it's timed right, because he said he replaced that, but obviously he didn't do everything right. Other than that, other problem I noticed is all of this bracket isn't bolted down, and so I need to get bolts for that. But first step is I'm probably going to end up pulling the valve cover, fuel rail, get all that cleaned up, get all that working, and while that's off, I can easily get to the distributor, pull the cap, get it on top dead center, make sure that it's timed right, and then check all the cables and make sure that they're going to the right cylinders, because I don't think they currently are. But it is sparking, so at least there's not some kind of electrical problem where it's not getting spark. Sometimes like one of the computers or something like that is wrong, and then you're not getting spark. So it's looking promising. It's kind of a mess, but it's looking promising. Ladies and gentlemen, right now is the moment that I've been waiting for, and I'm hoping you guys have too. We're working on the Bronco 2. So we're gonna get the trailer moved out of here and get the Bronco 2 pulled in here and get to work. All right, so we've got it in the shop. I just barely pushed it in. Kind of out of breath from that, but it's fine. Let me show you what we're gonna be doing today. We're gonna be pulling the upper intake because, as I think I already showed you, we've got a gasket hanging out right there. We've got a missing bolt, and this whole fuel rail was just spraying gas. I don't think it's held down by anything. So we're gonna look at that. And while all of that's out of the way, the distributor right down here, a bunch of the wires are in the wrong spot, and I'm wondering if the distributor is out on timing, because he did the distributor, and if he did all the other things wrong, would not surprise me if that thing's got a problem. And I know we're getting spark, I just don't know if it's at the right time. And we're getting fuel because it sprays everywhere. So I think if we can get both those working, correctly, I think it'll run. So we're gonna be doing all that today. Alrighty, so I got the upper intake pulled off, and I'm looking, and right here, coming in from the side, there's supposed to be bolts. They're missing there, and then this bracket down in there, I see a bolt hole. See if I can get it to focus down there. I see one there, but that's over there, so I'm gonna do some Google search and figure out why that's there, if that's supposed to bolt in. I don't see anything else like that, but bare minimum, those two need bolts in them. But eventually I'm gonna pull this whole thing off so I can check all the seals, because it was leaking a lot, like not just a little. So we're gonna look into this. All right, I'm kind of at a standstill. Ignore this, this is just a camera probe. So all the clips that retain the injectors are missing. They look, I found one in the car. They look like this, and this is the only one I could find. All the rest of them are missing. So that leaves me at kind of a standstill on the injectors. All the bolts are missing. I think I already told you that. But in my researching, I realized that all those retainers are missing, and I can't get those without ordering them online. So I switched gears. I decided to start checking the distributor. Turns out all the plug wires are in the right locations, but I just finally found top dead center on this engine. And as you can see, that's where the rotor's at. And when you look at the screw holes, it doesn't line up. So it needs to be facing kind of that way. And so it's rotated completely out of whack. So I'm gonna get the distributor pulled out, get it rotated, get it put back in. And hopefully that solves all the spark issues. And then I just got to figure out, like I said, those fuel clips. So, yep, I'm gonna get that done and get working on it. I also noticed my valve covers are in the wrong spot. They're supposed to be flipped, so he put them on the wrong way. So that's kind of annoying, but we'll address that at a later point. Alrighty, so I got all this cleaned up. Ignore that, that's just a crappy light he had in here. There's another one up there that's zip tied in, so I'm gonna have to cut that. Looks like he cut this to do the fuel pump at some point, so I'm gonna have to clean that all up and weld it back in once I get it running. I got a plethora of tools. This looks like the Dana 44 front hub because it's got that bigger bolt pattern. So I'm wondering if he was planning on swapping that. I also know he had another Bronco too on a solid axle Dana 44. So that could have been part of it. I got all the ramen cleaned up in here. So there was like a whole package of ramen just crumbled across the ground. So it's cleaned up a lot better in here. Obviously not perfect. These seats they're toast. They're not looking too hot, but that's all right. So got that all taken care of. Looking a lot better. Overall, I think it's gonna be a fun little project. Like I said, I already told you about all the problems up there. Both doors will probably have to get replaced eventually. They both have problems kind of there and on the bottom. Both have rust here. This one's the worst. the one that's worse. But my plan is to cut even the rocker out, come across here to do a rock slider. I'll just weld it straight in, and so then I'll only have to patch this and all these little trim holes. Might end up having to cut the wheel wells. We'll see. The other side's worse than this one, although this one's got a tear. So that's pretty rough. He sprayed some bed liner on here, so that'll have to get sanded off. This side, he already taped off this side for cutting the fenders, because this one, like you said, pretty rough. Most of this will come out when I cut that. It'll come up to about there, but you'll still have a little bit, so it might just need a small trim. This door is worse up here, but yeah, it looks pretty sweet. It's a pretty cool little rig, so we're gonna keep working on it, keep getting it fixed up.